Hello, I'm El Director, and you are watching Indie Rebel, Hollywood effects without a Hollywood budget. Today, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and compare the differences between the three main free node-based compositors that are out there. So we've got Natron, we've got Blender, and we have Fusion. And somebody asked on a recent video that I did, and when I say recent, I mean like with a month ago, why I prefer Natron over Blender specifically, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to share the differences between the three pieces of software and why Natron is my go-to. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to do the same comp in all three pieces of software, and we're going to start using this picture of a girl on a green screen. We're going to put her in front of a church background, and we will then also throw some helicopters in the background just because we can. So basically, the way I like to start is I like to start left to right, top to down. So I'm going to start off by just kind of organizing my nodes, knowing that, hey, this is going to be my backdrop, and I'm going to be throwing things on top of it here. I know I want the helicopters on first, and then I could put the girl on top of everything else. So we just go ahead and merge this in. And Natron, as you notice as I'm moving around, is very free with its node hookups here. You can see they come off at any angle from the node. So as I move this merge around, this B input just pans around this reader right here. And that allows it to be extremely flexible as I'm trying to organize things, as you'll see here momentarily. So here we've got the choppers down here. We know that's not where I want them, so we'll just go ahead and throw in a transform, and we'll stick them, maybe up here or something like that. And yes, I know they're cut off there on the side, but the thing is you're getting the point of what I'm trying to do. And that looks good. And then I just go ahead and straighten out the line because I like my line straight. Give me some more room there because I think we'll throw a color corrector in here, and we'll mess with that in just a little bit. Now let's go ahead and take Le Garo, and let's just do a basic chroma key here and see how this works. And come down here, choose the green goes away. That is awesome. At this point, I might also want to go ahead and just do a garbage matte on her, but I think for our purposes right now, this is going to be just fine. Throw that on there. And then let's go ahead and scale her a little bit. Like that. Oops. Don't want to skew her. And you can see everything's updating in real time. This is just super awesome, super flexible. And then one other thing I think I might do is run her through a despill at this point. And that just cleans up some of the fringing that we were having on there. Colors are not looking bad. They're not perfect, but they're not horrible either. I could go through and add a color corrector on here, and maybe play with some gamma on it a little bit. Boost the background a little bit. And, you're just trying to make everything kind of blend together. Maybe lower the contrast. Nope. Maybe increase it. Nah, I don't know. Anyway, you get the point. That we're able to do this and end up with something that ends up looking pretty good when all is said and done. So that is how I would go ahead and do a shot in Natron, and it's very easy to then come back in here and read this and know that, oh, okay, I've just followed my B pipe connections, because the B, as we know, is like background, and any of these merge nodes is simple. It's A over B, and it just makes it real easy to know what the heck is going on. So let's go ahead and try to put the same thing together inside of Blender. So here we are in Blender now, or Blender's compositor, I should say. And like I said, I don't spend a lot of time in here. First thing right off the bat is all the nodes are side connections, so it's going to make you work left to right rather than top to down, and that's fine. That's just a preference at that point. The biggest thing I don't like is as I start moving things around, you can see that you lose your reference on where the connector goes. I have it coming off this image input right here into this dot node, and it just, you can't do it. It's like, what the heck kind of a thing. So you're limited by where your connections are, and as we'll see, that's also an issue with Fusion. Another thing I don't like is that even just moving this node right now, this dot node, takes a keyboard shortcut. I'm having to hit G just to move the dot. Whereas if I come back in here into Natron and we add a dot, I can still just click on the dot and move it. I don't have to use a shortcut key just to move my dot node around. So Blender loses some cool points for that. Now you can move the actual nodes You just can't move the dot node. So if you're doing something with a lot of branching and stuff, it becomes a pain in the butt. Next step. All right, so we know that we want to go ahead and basically have our layers come out in this order. This is going to be our background. We're going to put the helicopter on top, and then we're going to put the girl on top of the rest. So the first thing we need to know is we need to merge it. However, if I go Shift A and I go to search and I type merge, there's nothing there. The industry standard naming convention is a merge, and yet Blender has chosen to go with alpha over. So you have to know that you need an alpha over node to do any sort of merging. I'm going to hook this one up to here. I'll try it one more time. Put it right there. There we go. And now, common sense would tell us if I want the helicopters on top of the background, I would throw the helicopters into the top input and this into the background. But wait, what happened? What is going on? I don't get it. It doesn't work that way. Let's see if we can fit our backdrop a little bit better. There we go. Blender's alpha over isn't even a real over node. These inputs are flip-flopped. If you want something to be on top, you actually have to put it on the bottom. And now you can see that that works at that point. Why they chose to do it this way is totally beyond me. I have no clue whatsoever why Blender has chosen to do that. It makes absolutely no sense, because if you want to stack stuff visually so it makes sense, kind of like we did over here, knowing that this is my order that I'm bringing stuff in and I'm working from here, I don't know why they don't let me do that here. It honestly just frustrates me to no end that I have to, that the alpha overs is that like that, all right? So that's, issue one. Issue two, whenever I go to add nodes, it's Shift A, and then I have to click on search, and then I can type the name of the node that I want to add. There's no keyboard shortcuts to add the nodes as far as I know. So there's my transform node, that's good. And the other thing I don't like is there's no widget. I can't just start dragging on this to move it. I have to come in here and actually start changing the values in order to put these helicopters where I want them to go. And this can take a long time to move stuff around your image. Such a pain in the butt. I'm still moving it. Still moving it. Alright, and then let's stick this over here a little bit more. Okay, so that took a lot longer to put those helicopters right where I wanted them. So, again, you lose cool points for that. Now, Blender does get cool points. One thing I do kind of like, at least initially, when I started compositing with nodes, because Blender was my first entry into the node-based environment, is that all your controls are right on the node. Now, you also have your controls over here off to the side. I can come over here and, make my changes that way, but they, by default, have all your nodes right here. Now, when we get into doing a keyer, there we go, the king node, this is the one I was looking for. You can see it's like the node is just stupid huge. Now, yeah, you can shrink it down, but then all your values go away, and it totally defeats the purpose of having the full setup in the first place. So let's go ahead and run the girl into the image, and then the key color, I will go ahead and eyedropper this green right there, and let's see if that worked. No, of course not. Why would it? Let's try it again. Here, key color, green. There we go. Now the keyer does do a good job, so that is nice. So now we've got the keyer, and I want to now add another alpha over. So I'm gonna come up here, type in alpha. There's my alpha over. And again, keeping in mind that, okay, the foreground goes on the bottom, the background goes on the top, and then I can run that into there, and this should theoretically work at this point. And it does. If I clip the black, it might get rid of some of that haze. Clip white. Honestly, no, I don't know why it's all hazed out like that. I've got no clue. So again, this is another issue with Blender, is it's not super intuitive to work with the keying. When I see a haze like this, it makes me think that my key's no good, but as we can see, that is not the issue. So, I don't know. And the other thing, no matter how hard now I try to clean this up, it's because of the size of these nodes. If you want access to everything, your nodes are just kind of all over the place. And I can try to keep my merges together like that. And I know I've got these outputs, and we got that one like that. But it's just not, I don't know, it's messy. It's messy, it's sloppy, and I don't like it. This, the way Natron handles things, so much cleaner to do basically the same shot. So for those that are wondering, you know, why I prefer Natron over Blender, I mean, this is a huge aspect of it right here. Oh, the other thing too, you know, in Blender we have to Shift A and then click on search. In Natron I just hit tab and start typing what I want to add, and everything pops right up that way. So it's a lot faster to add nodes in Natron. Plus, if you know the keyboard shortcut for the node that you want to add, it's a lot faster because you can just come in here and hit your keyboard shortcuts for them and start adding nodes in like nobody's business at that point. It's real easy to just add them. So Blender, like I said, loses a lot of cool points. One other huge feature that, as far as I know, Blender does not have is the log to linear conversion. This is extremely helpful when we're working with log footage, because then I can copy this, paste it down at the bottom of the node graph, and invert it right here, go linear to log, and then everything gets converted back to a log color space to be set up for color grading. Can't do that inside of Blender. There's no such node, as far as I know, to handle that kind of a thing. So Blender, you suck. So let's go ahead now and we'll boot up Fusion and take a look at how to do these same shots inside of there, and I'll show you why I don't like Fusion when it comes to node-based compositing. Okay, so here we are now inside of Blackmagic Design Fusion. Fusion does have an advantage in that it used to be used a lot in the industry for compositing. It's not often used anymore, but since Blackmagic has bought it, it is definitely getting a lot more publicity and is a more competent compositor than Blender, I personally feel. Now, you will notice that they want you to be working, theoretically, you know, left to right, just like Blender does. Okay, I can work with that. By default, your nodes are coming in shrunk. I would at least like to have these loaders, or readers, as I'm more familiar with calling them, have the, well, that's super large, let's go ahead and fit that, have the postage stamp right here. So I have to come in here, and then, let's see, it's been a while since I've done this. Honestly, I don't even remember where it is. Is it over here? Over there. Huh. Alright, I know there was a way to be able to view the postage stamp here. I just can't remember what it is, so we'll just have to kind of keep track of things like this. But, working with our visual way of stacking things here, I know I'm going to have my church be my background, and then we'll composite everything else on top of it from there. So, let's go ahead and put the choppers on top of that. So we're going to come in here and we add our merge, and just straight off the bat, you know, this isn't bad. You can hold your mouse over it and it'll tell you that, okay, that's the background and that one's the foreground. So eventually you just get used to knowing that, okay, green is foreground and yellow is background. Now, straight off the bat, one thing I do like about it, they let you move your points around as I rotate this. However, you can see that they snap. The connections have predetermined sections where they will go to, which may not seem like a big deal, but I'll show you exactly why that is as we get going later on. So if I want to try to keep things nice and neat and organized here, I'm going to want my choppers up here like this, coming straight down into the merge, knowing that I'm working left to right. So let's go ahead and view the merge. Okay, that's helpful. Now, one thing that is both a good thing and a bad thing with Fusion is the merges allow you to also move your foreground elements around. I can come in here with my merge and actually position the choppers exactly where I want, saving having to add a node. The reason why this is also a bad thing is that in a Nuke or Fusion or a Nuke or Natron script, I can look at this, I can see, oh hey, these choppers have a transform node, I've moved them in the image. When I look at this here inside of Fusion and I've put them up here, I have no idea when I'm looking at a final comp, like if I just had this highlighted there without that little rectangle, I have no idea knowing that, oh, those have been placed there manually. So even if I do composite inside of Fusion, which I don't even do anymore, I would still come up here and add a, let's see if I can remember this, shift space, yeah. I would still come in and add a transform node and then go ahead and move them. And that way I know that this transform contains that movement data at that point. Alright, so that's not, like I said, not a total deal breaker, but it is something to keep in mind. Let's go ahead and we'll take the girl and we'll put her on top of this. So we will add another merge. And again, knowing that green is our foreground and yellow is our background. We'll do that. Let's go and view it. Okay. And let's go ahead and run that through a keyer. Let's see what kind of keying options we have. Let's use the Ultra Keyer. I've heard good things about this. I've not actually played with it yet. Oh, plus it's a great example for some other stuff I want to show you. So, let's see here. I've not actually used this before. Let's pick a color. No, I don't like that. Can we click on this? Nope. How would I pick my image? Or pick a color for my image. There we go. That kind of works. And then, I'm not really digging this keyer at all. Oh well. Like I said, I don't know how to use these tools inside of Fusion. I haven't used Fusion in probably 3 or 4 years since I last used it on a short film called Derek. I used Derek as a workflow test to test out working with Avid and Fusion and Pro Tools and all this kind of stuff. And I did it, and I just didn't like compositing inside of Fusion when I did. And this right here is one of the main reasons why. No matter how hard you try, you cannot get things lined up just in a straight line. And it drives my ADHD crazy. If I want straight lines, they end up being offset, but I lose that signal flow. That same flow that I have here inside of Natron, I can just follow the arrows and everything just is linear. It makes a lot of sense. You don't get that inside of Fusion. It's all over the place. I can keep the nodes lined up, or I can keep their connections lined up, but you don't get both. Like, if they could give me the option to have it like this all the time, I would be much more inclined to use their software. But the problem is they don't let you do that, and therefore it is a pain in my rear, and I don't like compositing with it. I can't stand it. So that's a big issue. Another one is that your background size is determined by your background image. Like, that's how you choose what your image size is. You can't just come into settings, and again, this is as far as I know, and change your image settings for your what you want to be compositing at. I would have to come in here and add a, what's it called? A background node, yeah. The background node, I could actually come in and change the size, 1920 by 1080, that's good. And then I have to take all of this, let's see, is that how that works? I have to put, how did I do this before? Man, it's been years. I add a merge, I put the church into the foreground, and then the background into the background, and then this becomes my new church image, essentially. Yeah, that's how that works. So now I'm working with a 1920 by 1080 image. I know that the church would need to be scaled down, so we add the transform right there. And then I can come in and scale the church layer down to fit, which is somewhere like right around here. Scale the choppers, scale the girl, like everything, you know, at that point. Let's add one right here, and then we'll call this good. Scale her down. Put her over here. And then the keyer right now is doing some sort of weird clipping stuff. I'm not really quite sure what that's all about, to be honest. Again, Fusion, I mean, it's great. It works for some people. It just doesn't work the way my brain works. I'm a nuke guy at heart, and so Natron for me is definitely the way to go. This all makes so much more sense to me. It makes sense the way my brain works. I can come into the project settings and choose what I want my project to be. In this case, let's say I want to work at 4K. I can with Ultra HD. And then you can make everything fit it down at the end if I need to. So if I somehow got out of control with it, you just add a reformat like this. And then I can go Ultra HD, and now I've got a final 4K image output at this point. And you can see down here it does say Ultra HD 4K. So super easy to do. So that is why I hope that answers your question, you that asked it, why I prefer Natron over Blender and over Fusion. Now again, Blender and Natron are the open source versions, but all three are free. The one drawback again to using Fusion is that you're going to be limited to a 1080p output. You cannot output 4K unless you buy their studio version, and then you can do a 4K output. So my advice, because they're all free to try, download all three of them, play with them, grab some images off the internet like I did. I got all three of these things online. I got the church, I got the girl, and I got the helicopters all off the internet, just so I could practice compositing and putting things together. And at the end of the day, I found that Natron is best for me. So again, I hope that answers your question. I'm El Director, and you've been watching Indie Rebel.